Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here, Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Okay, so we're here.
Yeah.
We're a little late.
Yeah. Well, we're delayed.
We're delayed.
We chose a delayed start time
because
today.
I was like, there is no freaking way I'm going to be showered.
Michelle's being a trooper this morning.
I don't feel good.
She's definitely operating on partial battery. I thought you changed your thing. I was going to change your battery to
the
say
bottom part says 18% battery.
Oh, 18%
yeah, because
battery.
you were like, how much do you have? Actually, it's less than that, but okay.
Yeah. She's rounding up. I put mine at 81
By
points.
about 10.
Yeah. So Michelle contracted whatever it is that we have, the creeping crud, as my mother always called it.
I mean, I swear to you, Vegas is like a cesspool of a lot.
You think you came from Vegas?
Well, you got sick right after we got done at Vegas.
Yeah, I started feeling sick on Sunday morning, I think, after we basically left Vegas on Thursday. But here I am, on the mend. I put my battery power at about 81.7%. That'll probably change by 3:00 this afternoon. But we're just kind of we're suffering through. Michelle,
we're freaking committed to being here. That's what that says.
Mm-hmm.
So so we last night, Jim, we're like, okay, podcast, and he told me what he wanted to talk about, and I was like, all right, I'm 50-50, may or may not, but really glad to be here. It's been I always am. Eventful stuff. Last few days,
been a lot going on. It's been a full week with a couple of V8 meetings, and then we've had a number of things kind of that were kind of in the hopper, ongoing conversation about the DMS thing, which is a big part of what we'll talk about today. And then with our V8 groups, we've had a couple of things, and we got our first commitment for our V8 group 5.
Which is another big one.
Yeah, that's a group that is going to be 500 to 2,000 accounts. So, and if you're more than 2,000 accounts, I'd love to hear from you if you have an interest in that format, because we may have an opportunity to create something like that. We've talked to a couple of people that seem to have interest in that as well. So
I'm like, I can't stop moving. It's like, sorry.
We've been spending this morning kind of comparing symptoms. She doesn't have exactly the same symptoms, at least not yet, that I went through, but hopefully she will be able to sidestep some of it.
Let's not talk about being, what do they say? My best friend is like, what you focus on expands.
Oh, yeah.
Or what you focus on, you attract. So let's talk about, not
let's focus
sick.
on ice cream. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I always like ice cream.
Yeah.
So we wanted to give an update on where we were at. We did before the conference. Was it last week? That was last week. Man, it goes by so fast. Before the conference, we sent out some emails to DMS providers, and we just wanted to give you, that's one of the things we want to talk about, is giving you an update on where we're at. And
I think before we dive into that, a couple quick things. Had a nice conversation with Brent Carmichael yesterday.
We're going to have him on the show sometime soon.
Yeah. He's, as most know, who haven't received the announcement, they announced at NIADA on Wednesday morning, I believe, at their general session, maybe Tuesday, that Brent was joining NIADA at January 1st.
As the director of education.
Yep.
And one of the things he says that the response has been overwhelming.
Of course.
That, of course, he's going to have some of his groups that he moderates right now that like what's happening. But all of the buy here, pay here groups that he had are being shifted over to NIADA. So,
I think basically if you're one of his group members and you're just coming back from Antarctica or someplace and been, off the radar, then just know that, it's almost no impact to those people that are over there with NCM with Brent now. It's just obviously going to be about a 6-month transition. And it's all good. And we're thrilled for Brent. We're, and I think what it says to us is somebody that, it just increases our likelihood and willingness to cooperate with NIADA and, you know, all the initiatives and
So
all.
yeah, we're pretty happy about, happy for him and happy just for the industry, because it's going to be just a huge, it's a win for the industry.
And one other mention too, we got word through social media this week that Jared Halstead has become was it interim? Jared. Is he interim executive director
of
Arizona?
IADA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're familiar with that organization, know Jared well, and he's we would call Jared a friend of the broadcast and a personal friend
and an avid Android user.
There you go. I'm finding there are a few more of us than I thought, Jared. I thought at one point it was just you and I were the last holdouts, but we found a few more.
There are a few, and you know, and it's funny because we still go through this thing that Jim will say, like, I have to go through and scroll each one of the windows that I have open to turn them, to shut them all, and he's like, "Oh, I just push this button, boom, boom." And I'm like, "You think you're better than I am, don't you?"
Well, I think my device is better than yours in many ways, so. I don't know if that's what you meant.
Apple, Android.
Yeah.
It will be an ongoing debate probably till the day we die. And I doubt that Jim will ever convert just because he likes to have fun with me.
Yeah. Now I'm just kind of, as part of my identity, I have to stay, right? Just to kind of poke. So I don't want to lose my opportunity to poke. Ability. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. So,
I love you, honey.
No, I love you back. Let's dive into our topic of the day. I think before we go into the email thing, I wanted to share the screen if we can. Let me get the spreadsheet on the screen over here.
I'll do it right here. Mom, let me do it.
Let me make sure I have the right screen shared. That's going into the email, and I thought I was sharing this other spreadsheet. So let me go back.
Okay.
You can take it down for a minute. Let me get this out. And
this is a special day. You get to see behind the scenes in Jim's email box.
Yeah, that's right.
Inbox. So
let me stop my sharing and redo it.
Well, and it's part of that whole transparency thing.
It is.
And it's funny because, unless it's something that has to be kept under wraps because of, contract or things like that, there's just no point in not sharing what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, shoot, I don't know if I got. Oh, here we go. This is the right spot. Okay. I'm a little still. He's only at
81%.
So. And it's my.
At least you got the whole weekend.
What?
We got the whole weekend to just do nothing but.
Absolutely.
We mowed the lawn earlier this week, so don't have to do that this weekend.
And I'm feeling better. I'm going to go out and party.
Are you?
If I can leave some chicken soup or something for you.
I just want hot toddies.
Yeah. No, I follow.
Yep.
Let's get the spreadsheet up and then we can share the screen. So there we go. I think it's ready.
Now we're up here.
All right. So, I think I shared this in prior podcasts. I can't remember if I went into this much detail, but I just kind of wanted to have our listeners, especially dealers and their controllers and, all the folks in management, even their accounting people could benefit from this information. So because of my experience in working inside the DMS as a former dealer and having worked with dealers, all over the place and all the different DMSs and helping them create reports, I was able to kind of frame this out and provide it to everybody. And, basically what we're looking for is what we're calling a portfolio summary report or principal summary report. It's basically just identifying the principal across a range of time and typically would be a calendar month. And you would say, this is our opening principal balance. And we're looking at it just globally. I'm just trying to get a global report so that dealers can see, because for my purposes in working with them, what I want them to have this information for is primarily for management, like day-to-day management, month-over-month management, to be able to look at this kind of thing. And this helps with lots of this information alone helps us to help them produce really useful management and performance reports. Okay.
So just this report.
Just this report. Yeah. By itself will allow us these key pieces of data. And not only do we get these pieces of data, but we confirm in this method that everything's accounted for, and even though I use the word accounted, we're not trying to do accounting here. I've had to say that to a couple of people.
It's not your overhead. It's just your portfolio.
It's the portfolio, which we all understand is the largest asset of the business.
So talk to me about why this is helpful to all dealers.
Well, because when we can track the movement in our portfolio. So just think about this way. It's our largest, if you're a dealer with a $25 million portfolio and your portfolio goes up and down, new contracts added, accounts collected, accounts charged off, et cetera. So it moves up and down. And what I want dealers to be able to always identify, like I want them to walk in on the morning of the first and be able to run this report and say, our portfolio in the course of last month moved by this amount, certainly principal. We're just trying to, in a simple interest environment, we're trying to do principal. And by the way, we're extending the same thing for leasing. We want to see the same thing for LHPH. It's like every DMS provider. We would hope that they would be able to provide this in that format as well.
How does it help? What is it that it shows to a dealer? First
thing it does is it lets the dealer identify their rate of collections. Okay. So how well they're converting.
There's a lot of different ways people look at that. It's like, what's your recency? What's your, and I know that you're someone that's like, it's really not a good number to look at.
Well, it's one of many. And it's like, there's probably 5 or 6 numbers that I would want to look at. But if I can only have one on a monthly basis, I would want to know how much
is on your desk and you're going to be able to say, this is how we did.
Yep. I want to know, as a dealer, the first things I want to be able to see is how much principal did we collect as a percentage of the principal that we had in the portfolio to start the month, because that number helps any dealer. And we're going to be teaching them. We're going to educate them through this podcast on how to do this, because, we have, dozens of dealers in our V8 program. Wonderful. How many buy here, pay here dealers are there supposed to be across the country? The lowest number I hear is about 14,000.
Yeah.
And we want them all to have this information. Well, some of them use it, some of them won't, right? Yeah. But it's like, we still want them to have this available through their DMS. And so we're just saying this information, if as a dealer, I could walk in and say, okay, we collected this much principal as a percentage of where we started, and we charged off this much principal as a percentage of what we started with, then that helps to drive lots of important calculations, lots of important formulas, conversion rate, collateral recovery rate, all these different formulas that people use. And I think that, if you're a lender, you would like to know that this report was available. You'd like to be able to see that there's a good summary report that says started here, ended here, boom, boom, boom. And
this report is not so much getting into the weeds, but this is a really good high level view of what's happening in your book of business.
Yeah. And I could even argue that it's both high and mid level. Okay. It's like, yes, it's high level for the dealer, but there's a lot of people on the management team that would also benefit from this. And also you're getting quite close when you have this number. Let me think about the pieces. You have almost everything you need in this report to be able to produce your adjusted gross profit. So, and then there's cash flow considerations too. So we're obviously working with dealers all the time to help them look. We spend a lot more time in cash flow than we do profit, and that's a whole different subject.
Well, and yeah. If you talk to the old dogs in this industry, it's like cash is that's really what you want to be.
Yeah. And we had a confirmation of that last night in our group meeting. That's our newer dealers. We talked through some of the math and said, this is how we, we want to calculate this and how we want to help you arrive at numbers. And they, these dealers basically confirmed, I don't have that information at my fingertips. Now, not this particular report doesn't solve all the pieces that we were talking about in that conversation, but it certainly goes a long way toward helping them first identify their receivables numbers.
Yeah, and Vic Everett, DMSs should make the availability to create the principal report a priority. Vic is he's actually one of the dealers that you met with last night. So it's an important report. It's a good high level, mid level report. It's going to give a dealer that just wants to see, like, what is a snapshot of where I'm at, what's happening. And so what are some of the things that, because, you can do one, but then you're going to start comparing month after month, right?
Right.
With this. And so what are some of the things as you're comparing, month after month, what are some of the things that you're going to be watching to see that might be an indicator of something that you need to take a deeper look at?
Well, I think that's a kind of a big question. I think
we don't talk about these beforehand. He just lets me just go.
Oh yeah.
So
I love that you're able to kind of take that perspective. I would say that the single biggest thing that a dealer can do with this report is look at, let me give a couple numbers. Like on this sample report that I've got loaded up, let's just look at the finance company. And I just threw sample numbers in there to kind of help people see how the calculations would look, right? And just kind of get a feel for what's happening in the math. But if I could know how much principal I collected just in the finance company, I know how much principal I collected, I know how much interest I collected in that calendar month as a percentage of where the month started. That's a really strong, ongoing, longer term indicator of how well we're collecting, how
so
well
like
are we
if
converting.
your percentage is, I mean, what's a good healthy number?
6% is pretty common for the combination of those.
It's so funny because it's like a single digit number that sounds awful, but it is for overall for the full principal that's still owed on the portfolio. So 6% is on a given month is good. So if you're seeing it dip to 4%, then or whatever, then it's just like, oh, something's wrong. Something needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and I think before that, I mean, I didn't even really try to explain to the DMS providers what all could be accomplished with this report. I mean, I'm happy to have a chance to talk about it today.
Yeah.
But this is just one element of what I think dealers can do with this. And I asked to have it globally because I think if I could have a dealer just have it, because you might have in any given close of a month, you might have still 10% of your portfolio over in your dealership side and part of it and the rest of it over in your RFC. And I just globally, we just want to see how is the portfolio performing and can we identify all the money that moved in and out of that portfolio?
Yeah. And we've talked to a lot of different DMSs. And so, when we say we want this, and then they'll say, well, you can do this report and pull this from this and this report and pull this and this. Yeah. It's like we want a report that a dealer can schedule in their DMS. Sure. That when they arrive at their dealership on the 1st, they're going to see what it is that happened last month. And it's it's because all the numbers are already in the DMS. It's just putting them together in the proper order so that you can spit this out. So this report is something that we're asking DMSs to make available in their catalog of reports that a dealer can run, and that we're asking is just be one of the many reports, no extra costs, that kind of thing. So every dealer out there has the ability. It's going to be, we've asked them to call it a white hat way or white hat way report. And so that we will also be, like Jim said, teaching on this in the podcast so that, the dealers can understand more and more about this. So are you ready to kind of jump into the conversations we've had?
Almost. Let me get a couple quick things on. So on this report, I think it's noteworthy because, I sent an email this morning to all the DMS providers, kind of an update on what's happened at the conference and since the week that we've been back. And they would have heard from us earlier in the week had we not both been under the weather. But I think now we just got an update out to them and wanted to take this opportunity to kind of, it's one thing, Michelle, to use the word transparency and say we're going to be transparent. This is us being transparent,
uber transparent.
We're just showing what transparency looks like. It's like we're on YouTube this morning, so we're talking to everybody and saying the same thing to everybody. And it's like the idea is that we're not. There's nothing here to favor anybody except put good information in the hands of dealers.
That's a win. That's a win for everybody. Right. Yeah.
So they have an important and difficult job to do. And I just want to do anything I can to help make it easier. And I think my perspective on some of this stuff helps me to get there. And so this is part of what this is about. One thing I want, before we leave the screen, I want to say that I recognize, certainly as somebody who's been around DMS, you come from a technology background. This report, if you look at you got a receivables report. Most of this would be inside receivables and or general ledger on receivables. And so I hope that systems are able to produce that fairly easily. But when you look at amount finance, that might come from the sales section. In other words, some dealers would go to their sales report to capture that information. But obviously it comes into the finance side. So it's a question of how you pick that up. And you start to see, this is why it's difficult for dealers to find. This is a simple one, but they get a little more complex. But now principal collected, that's typically going to be a collection report. Principal charged off, that's going to be a charge-off report. Now, collections and charge-off should both be over in the collections module of the software. But I'm simply saying I recognize that when you ask for things like this, we do have enough experience. And 20 years ago, when I was first consulting, I worked with a company that was more software than consulting. And so I've been around this stuff, and I have some understanding of it's not necessarily a simple ask. And so when these people agree to step forward, it's can be a bit of a lift on their side to create this. But we think it's important, and we're happy to shine a light on those who are willing to put forth the effort to make this happen.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I think this is the part that, we just recognize it's a bit of a thing. And so we want to make sure that people are clear about what it is we're asking for. And one of the reasons we want the White Hat Way name on there is we just want everybody everywhere, when we talk about it on the podcast, we'll go find this report and look for that name. And that way you'll know.
And like I said, that there's a lot of DMSs that are like, well, if you go here and you go here and you go here and you put these numbers here and here and here, I appreciate the help and the guidance on where to go, but it's interesting because when we look at the dealers that we're aware of, and the dealers that 75% of the dealers out there are not big. They're not. They're not the mega dealers. So most dealers are they're smaller dealerships, and most dealers they're not numbers nerds,
right?
And that especially when you get into a DMS, and it's just like it's daunting.
Right.
It's daunting for even some of these, because I have some tech background. It's like daunting for me to get in there. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah. No, it can be. It definitely can be.
It's and so, part of this too, creating this report, is to help dealers at all levels of understanding reporting and all of that, to be able to get a good view on what's happening in their portfolio. And it's been interesting as well that even dealers that have been around for a long time, they've just, we've seen examples of dealers that have just, you're Frankenstein put together how they keep things, they're doing their reporting and how they're keeping things running, and where they go to do some of their reporting, or how they're attributing things. And it's because, there just hasn't been, unless you're in a 20 group or something like that. And even then, we see people, it's like, it's pretty janky. But it's not something that anyone really is out there trying to educate on. Like, this is going to help everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're a member of your state association. Doesn't matter if you're a member of a 20 group. This is something that's going to help all dealers.
We had a couple of providers already in this conversation say to us, maybe our 20 group, we produce this stuff for 20 group, maybe our 20 group. And
has anyone ever, like, that's not in a 20 group, pulled a 20 group report? I mean, they're great because there's lots and lots but it's so much information.
Yes. And they don't all balance.
So
this is the part that I'm saying, before you send me there, go make sure it balances, because it doesn't all jive with what I'm doing here.
And that's been one of the things when Jim sent out this email to all of the DMS providers. He's like, when you can get it created and it balances, we'll have you on the show. We'll talk about it. It's like, it's great, great publicity for the DMS. And, it's like, these are the ones that are stepping forward to do that. So we have a few that have,
we do,
that have, already in process of doing this. And so did you want to talk about that?
Sure. No, I think, we can,
do you want me to put that
this?
Up on your...
Go ahead and share this, and we'll get inside this email. So, so basically, what I wanted to have a chance to say.
So this is showing who Jim sent this email to,
right?
And so,
you want me to go through it? Let me just
sure.
So basically, initially, I sent it to every DMS provider that I had an email and was familiar with. As I did that, inevitably you thought of a couple more and you added them. And then at the conference, we were able to meet people and get their business cards and come back with their emails. And so today I've even added emails of some of the other, principals with the company and or developers and some of the people that we've had dialogue with since. So I'm just simply expanding it. And obviously, it's kind of annoying to have group emails and this kind of thing. So we're trying to keep that to a minimum, but it's part of how transparency has to work. I have to make sure that everybody understands. I'm saying the same thing to every provider. This is not something where we're playing any favorites. This is all on behalf of dealers. And so this is an opportunity for us to, work together. And so as I read this thing, what I just wanted to kind of open up, because it doesn't show it exactly in Gmail, but
and it scrolls down. There's more people. Than what
there's
you
a
see
ton
on
of people on this list. And then I also carbon copied again our founding sponsors, Tim Lawrence and Tim Bird and Chris Machika, and the lovely Michelle is copied there as well. Now, so you get that part. And then here's what I said. I said, happy Friday, everyone. Please forgive yet another open email. I trust that you all recognize why such transparency is appropriate in a situation such as this. First, a few additions to the email thread after conversations and connections at last week's NIADA convention, plus a few that occurred since. So I added Jason and Pierce Reeves. It was great to meet those guys. I've known them. What happens at these things? There's so many people that you know by face. You see them in the hallways and in the expo hall all the time. I've just been around this thing for 20 plus years, and there's all these familiar faces. So I've known that company, right? And it was nice to be able to talk to Jason and to Pierce. That first day we were there, and then Bob Higgins I've kind of known. He's with kind of their business development or business relations, I think is his title, and so we added him. Then Honey Kusamoto, I'm going to say, is who Eric Au had suggested, and we got copied in the thread with her already. Ashton Assisi, I hope I'm saying your name right, Ashton. That was somebody that DealPack asked to reach out to me. We actually had a virtual meeting with them on Monday, and they're working on it. DealPack is certainly among the ones that are striving to create that. And then Evan Johnson, we met at the dealer center booth.
Yeah,
remember
and then
Evan?
I remember Evan, and who's the one that was over not collections, but the
support. I don't have his information.
I thought that we grabbed
we may have a photo.
Yeah, but it was really pretty sweet that we started talking with Evan, and he shows us his phone with the logo.
The other gentleman did, right?
Yeah, from Dealer Center, shows us the picture of the podcast, and he says, we watch this in support for training. So it was like, thank you. And he says, because there's not a lot out there for the people that are not part of the industry in like dealerships and all of that, for them to understand the challenges and all of those that dealers are experiencing. So just a big shout out there. Right. Thank you.
I'm going to scroll a quick. Oh, sorry. I'm just
no, that's okay. So and I'm glad you put in here the response from the folks at Fraser. Fraser's going through really big development. And updating and all of that. And so they basically blanket apology for coughing, sneezing, and sniffling. That would be me. But they let us know that until this is done, that they're not going to be able to really put any kind of resources towards doing this. But you can be guaranteed, all of you out there in listener land, as soon as that is done, we'll be right on it. And it's
we'll let users know. We obviously work with a lot of dealers that are Fraser users, right? And so that was disappointing to hear that wouldn't make sense in their development right now, that they couldn't really give time to that. And it's okay. Like, we get it. That happens. And we have our own roadmap.
Well, coming from a tech background, is you have to draw a line in the sand, because little things will come up here and there and from every corner and completely disrupt your roadmap. So,
And as we continue to socialize this, hopefully people will, be able to better justify kind of rearranging this on their roadmap and
so huge shout out. Mike Downey was one of the first people that reached out to us.
He was.
And
of course, I've known Mike for 20 plus years as well. And so he's somebody that, he right away said, we'll go to work on it and see what we can do. And so I have every confidence that we'll figure that out with them. And so, that's AutoMasters AMS, and they have a wonderful reputation for customer service. And obviously they, Mike and I have had these conversations in the past. And so this is something
one thing I really appreciate about Mike It's because, we typically don't mention names when there's a complaint, when there's something, when there's something good that's happening. It's like this person, this whatever is, but we typically don't, just because it just doesn't feel, it feels kind of crunchy when you're like,
that's Michelle's new favorite
that's my
word.
new favorite word. And whenever we talk about DMSs and our challenges with DMSs, Mike is almost always on the phone calling Jim within, sometime during that day. It's like, hey, is it us? Is there anything that I can do to help you? And I really appreciate that he's been really, really proactive.
Yeah. I have a ton of respect for Mike, and obviously their users have good things to say about AMS. So then the other one was Alex at Automatrix. I saw Alex at the convention hall, but we never made it over there to talk to them. And it just happens, these expo halls, you connect with people and you're catching up, and you look
there's people that are standing there talking to them, and you don't want to,
you don't want to interrupt when they're in the middle of a demo or whatever.
Exactly. Right.
So that happens too, but inevitably you leave the expo hall and darn it, we never connected with so-and-so. And
we weren't planning on going back on Thursday, and it was like, okay, we have like 4 different people that we didn't connect with, so let's go back. And,
so we went back over before we headed out. That's true. And then you've got so I mentioned Alex at Automatrix. So you got Michael Sansone in Virginia with them, and we also are going to schedule with them. We already had a virtual meeting, and they expressed a clear willingness to do that. By the way, in Dealer Controlled Solutions, what you've got is a browser-based system, and they offer both buy here, pay here, and lease here, pay here. So I think it's going to be something.
And that was Rick Reeves.
That's right. That was auto. They called it AFS.
Yeah.
I forget the
acronym. The Sansone, the Sansone father-son duo purchased that, and then are
and they're in the franchise business and now the software business. And so Virginia, who's the developer that Mike Downey and I both worked with 100 years ago.
It was good to see Virginia at the conference as well.
Always. And so then so she's with Dealer Control Solutions. Then the Wayne Reeves team that we mentioned, including I met Kevin Scott, who I've kind of known through social media, but we had a fun conversation around that. That just happens that people that through social, but you don't get a chance to meet in person sometimes for later. And I don't want to forget, Dealer Center expressed a willingness to attempt to accommodate. And I hope we'll be able to work with them. They did. And I checked. I was actually in their system this week with the dealer, because I've got direct access for reporting with several of the dealers through our V8 thing and some other clients. But I was able to check and see if I could produce. I can't come close to what I'm asking for here. But I think the other thing is we had a fruitful conversation with them. They expressed a genuine interest in, cooperating to create reports that we think are going to be useful. And so I certainly appreciated their willingness. And I have, again, every confidence we'll figure out a way to get there because their system, is pretty capable. This is something that could really benefit dealers. And we work with several of them that are Dealer Center users. IDMS has acknowledged the request. Though we don't have any indication, we don't know how willing they are to do this. I will say about IDMS, because of our work with other clients, IDMS is one of the ones that we have to run about 4 different reports and bring the numbers together.
And
but
we can balance.
We can balance to the penny in that system. So that's something that's noteworthy. So I think
we've had the conversation. It's like, what does a 1% or whatever of balancing up to 1% for some of these bigger dealers? That's a lot of money.
Is that popping up?
That is.
I could stop sharing.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, Jared. I sent him a text, and my phone's connected to the device, so it's used for sharing. So we'll finish this up. But I just wrapped up by saying, for convenience, I attached the proposed layout, which is a spreadsheet I showed at the beginning.
So if there's anybody out there that we have not talked to, or that we, was not on this list of people, and
please let us know.
Please let us know.
Right.
We will email you the spreadsheet that has all of the things.
Yeah.
And let's get this done so that it's, because there's very little in the industry that is standardized.
Right.
There's very, very little, and it to our detriment.
The hair stands up on the back of my neck when you say standardize, because I don't think you're going to get to standardize in this fiercely independent space.
True, but there are things that, if we can start to compare apples to apples, it will help, and one thing after another. And it's not about let's standardize what your interest rate is, or let's standardize, but let's start with standardizing reporting and how we are attributing things in our DMSs.
There are people in cubicles this morning who work for lenders that are going to great lengths to produce some of these numbers that we're talking about, and they're over there saying, let's get that. You know what I mean? Let's also get that.
Jim, through this kind of report, he's talked to a lot of the different lenders, and shown them into it when we're discussing different things with clients of ours. And it's like, they get it. So so it's not about we want to turn every dealership into a cookie cutter dealership, but there are it would certainly make answering questions a lot easier for consultants and all of that, because most of the time someone will say, well, this, and you watch it on Facebook, and someone will say this, and then you're getting 17,000 different responses, and it's all based on the responder's business model, and it's different than the one that's asking the questions. So the more that we can start to create something that levels that out a bit, and Robert, thank you, Robert Hernandez, applaud you for your efforts. This is long overdue. Thank you.
Thanks.
I know that just talking with our friends at Butler Sanchez, that Amanda's like, can we just standardize the chart of accounts? Can we just standardize that? And
that's been a conversation since I've been around it too. Like that's a struggle. But I follow that. I think for us, even in these conversations with some of the people that we're working with, it's not an accounting matter. We're not trying to do accounting. I do believe that having this information locked down in a single report would help the accountants. It's got to. I mean, you're reconciling the largest asset in the business, and so knowing where the money moves in and out is going to be it's going to be especially useful to them, I think. And so I understand some accounting, and I think but I'm not trying to do accounting. I'm trying to help dealers first and foremost manage their business month over month, get to some really key performance numbers. And this to me would be, job one. And so that kind of helps to, create that. So, that's all part of what we're trying to do. And so, I think we're having success. We're looking forward to having the first of these DMS providers come forward and say, look, here it is.
And you'll see them. We'll have them on the show if they want to come on
Wednesday, and we'll explain and show, tell the listeners about, how it works, and that they stepped forward. They stepped up. Right. And so I think that'll happen. We're going to have some of those folks be able to produce this for users, and we're going to be happy to share that. And I'm happy to share that, whether this dealer is, a V8 member, if they're a listener of our podcast, if they're an NIADA member. I just want all dealers who are buy here, pay here out there struggling and running a difficult business to have this information at their fingertips. And then we'll be educating through the podcast on how they can use this information to improve their business.
And one of the things that I really appreciated about the way that you navigate these kind of things is there's nothing proprietary about this.
Right.
That this is for the good of the industry, the good of the dealer, and it is something that every dealer should have access to, period. And so as you watch, there's always new growth things and things that we're working on for the future, but you'll see more reporting type things and all that. And as we continue to develop relationships with the development teams of the DMSs, there will be more that comes.
This is kind of in that category of just more than. Not everything is a profit and revenue matter. Like, just not everything
it's one of those things that when you help, everybody gets better. Everybody. And so that's one thing that I've really appreciated about Jim, is that his philosophy is he doesn't hold his cards right up against his chest. It's
sometimes I get called out for that. Like, oh, you're pretty open and about where you're going and what you're doing. Yeah, that's how we build
maybe
it.
You don't, maybe you aren't, and that's okay too. This is how we're doing this. And we've discussed before about how people are saying, how can you you're hurting yourself. And it's like, when we look at it in the whole picture, it's not hurting it's helping. And it's educating dealers. And so dealers are asking better questions. They're making better informed decisions. And, especially with like the white hat way, all of those things is that dealers are learning, how do we navigate the CFPB? How do we navigate just being able to connect with our communities and our customers and the teams and all of that. And of course we're going to just like, if we can help, of course we're going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think near term with this report, it just helps us to figure out how much do I have to grow to get to the place where I can start to retire my debt? Just simple stuff like that.
This is the beginning of that answer.
That's right.
So, and that's something that, it's so many dealers out there they're just, it's like between floor plans and then they're all of that is that it's like, if one of those things goes down there in a world of hurt. And so we believe in smart debt. Yeah. Absolutely believe in smart debt, but we also believe in getting out of debt.
Yeah, it's up to the dealer to decide, but I just want them to have the information to know if I choose to retire debt, or if I choose to, when will I have enough positive cash to go invest in real estate? Whatever. It's like whatever they choose to do with surplus money. I just want them to be able to get to the information and know, here's where we're at. This helps us know where we got to go to get to where we want to be.
Trying to do it in a way that you don't have to have a degree in reporting analytics.
These folks are busy. I mean, we have a hard enough time getting them to a meeting, right?
Can I go lay down?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Please, absolutely.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for, it's Friday. Thanks for including us in your Friday. And I know we're all like heading into usually there's some dealers out there that are actually closed on Saturdays, but the weekend business and all of that. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday, and we will see you on Monday, and I can just about guarantee that we'll be back at much higher than 81%.
We'll see. Let's hope. Have a great weekend, everyone.